My name is Colton Reed, and for years I believed I had built a life of security and trust. I had dedicated myself to my career as a financial analyst in a prestigious firm, and I prided myself on the meticulous management of my personal finances. My bank account, my email, and all my online transactions were not only my livelihood, but also a symbol of the order I had imposed on my world. I lived in a comfortable suburban home in a bustling American city, a life punctuated by routine. Early mornings with steaming cups of coffee, the rhythmic hum of computer fans at work, and evenings spent unwinding with my partner, the love of my life. Before the quiet of the night set in, I took every precaution: two-factor authentication, secure passwords that I updated every few months, and careful monitoring of my accounts. In my mind, I was impenetrable. My digital fortress was one I trusted implicitly. I had little reason to doubt that my personal data was safe, that my finances were secure, and that nothing could disrupt the stability I had worked so hard to achieve. Yet, even as I sat in my office one crisp morning, a subtle unease tugged at the edges of my mind. A notification on my phone about an unusually large withdrawal gave me pause. I dismissed it at first, attributing it to a routine automatic payment. But as the day progressed, more anomalies emerged. Emails I hadn't sent, messages I hadn't written, and transactions that I couldn't account for. The digital world I once considered safe now whispered warnings in cryptic, silent code. That night, I sat at my desk, staring at the glowing screen of my computer, and began to notice patterns in the chaos, small irregularities that, when pieced together, suggested that my account had been infiltrated. I tried to shake off the feeling of impending doom, assuring myself that these were mere glitches. But deep inside, a seed of doubt had been planted, a seed that would soon grow into something far more destructive than I could ever imagine. In the days that followed, I became increasingly aware that something was terribly wrong. My once pristine bank statements now bore marks of unaccounted for withdrawals and suspicious transactions that I couldn't trace. Each evening, after a long day at the office, I would meticulously check my online accounts. The familiar figures and balances were replaced by erratic numbers that told the story of unauthorized activity. I felt the cold dread settling in my chest as I scrolled through transaction histories that made no sense. Late one night, after the house had fallen silent, I sat alone in my study, a half-empty cup of coffee cooling by my side. I opened my journal, a habit I had maintained since college, and began jotting down every anomaly. There were emails that I hadn't written, notifications from unfamiliar IP addresses, and digital footprints that led me down a path of confusion. And the more I investigated, the more I realized that my carefully maintained digital life had been compromised. I felt as if I were watching a slow, insidious invasion from within, each irregularity a small betrayal that added up to a shattering revelation. I reached out to the bank's security department, desperate for an explanation. They assured me that nothing unusual was happening, that it was likely a minor technical glitch. But deep inside, I knew that the signs were too consistent to be dismissed so lightly. Each unexplained charge, each anomalous login time, was a silent alarm ringing in my mind. I began to fear that the very systems I had trusted with my livelihood had been turned against me. In my heart, a storm was gathering, a mix of disbelief and mounting anger at the violation of my privacy. I found myself obsessively checking my accounts, scrutinizing every detail, and each time my anxiety grew, as if I were losing control over something once so secure. The digital realm, once my fortress, now seemed a labyrinth of hidden dangers and unseen enemies. I resolved to uncover the truth, even if it meant confronting the dark underbelly of cyber intrusion. Late one evening, as dusk turned to darkness over the city, I noticed something that made my blood run cold: a log of unauthorized access from an IP address I did not recognize. The realization hit me like a physical blow. Someone had hacked into my account. My heart pounded as I frantically traced the digital trail. I spent hours poring over login histories, tracking every suspicious connection, and slowly pieced together a pattern. It became evident that a single entity was behind the intrusion, and the evidence was mounting inexorably. I began to suspect that this wasn't a random breach. It was an orchestrated, deliberate act of betrayal. The hacker had been meticulous, covering their tracks with digital smoke and mirrors. Yet, every false step, every encrypted message, left behind a tiny trace that I could follow. My initial shock gave way to a grim determination as I realized that the thief had not only stolen my money, but had invaded the sanctity of my private life. I recalled snippets of online chatter and obscure forums, names mentioned in hushed tones among cyber enthusiasts. One name, in particular, kept appearing as pseudonym: Zane Parker. The more I delved into the digital rabbit hole, the more I found that Zane was not an amateur. He was a skilled, shadowy hacker with a reputation for sophisticated heists. His methods were elegant, his approach calculated, and the fact that my account had fallen prey to him filled me with both anger and a desperate need for justice. I began to compile every piece of evidence: screenshots of suspicious logins, copies of email notifications, and detailed notes of every anomaly. I created a timeline, a digital trail that led unmistakably to Zane Parker. It was a meticulous, painstaking process, one that took me deep into the labyrinth of my online history. Each detail confirmed what I had feared. My life, as I had carefully constructed it, was built on a foundation now compromised by betrayal. In the days that followed my heart-wrenching discovery, I transformed my personal anguish into an unrelenting, single-minded quest for irrefutable proof. Every minor detail, every anomalous behavior that I had once dismissed as a mere quirk, became a vital piece of the puzzle that would expose the full extent of Zane Parker's intrusion and the betrayal that cut deeper than any financial loss. I plunged into his digital world with an intensity that left me both exhausted and unyielding, meticulously delving into records, forums, and shadowy corners of the internet where his name was whispered like a curse. Each late-night text message, every unexpected email notification, and the fleeting IP addresses that popped up on my account were recorded in my journal with obsessive precision. It was as if each small irregularity was a droplet filling an ever-growing reservoir of evidence, a reservoir that threatened to overflow with undeniable truth. I spent sleepless nights saving screenshots of messages that, on the surface, appeared innocuous, but upon closer inspection revealed secret codes and inside jokes that could only belong to someone with intimate knowledge of my life. The messages, masquerading as benign communication, were in fact declarations of triumph and scorn from Zane, a digital signature of betrayal. I gathered every photo, every short video clip I had captured from my own surveillance of a digital reach. I digitized these visual fragments and integrated them with the myriad screenshots of intimate text exchanges that hinted at a deeper conspiracy. With painstaking precision, I constructed a detailed timeline that spanned several weeks, each instance of unauthorized access, every illicit transaction, every login from an unknown location was chronicled with exact dates, times, and even geographic markers. Slowly but inexorably, the dossier emerged as a damning mosaic, a visual and written testament to a systematic betrayal that left no room for denial. Yet, as the physical evidence mounted, an internal conflict stirred within me. In the dead of night, I would sit alone with the compiled files spread before me and wonder if this relentless pursuit was changing me. Was I in danger of losing the compassionate man I once was, a man who believed in forgiveness and the sanctity of family? Each time such doubts crept in, I recalled the tender, secret moments I had once shared with my family before the digital carnage, and I felt the sting of every broken promise. The bitter truth became all too clear. The cost of betrayal was far too high to allow even a shred of compassion to remain unchallenged. By the end of an agonizing week, my dossier was complete, a comprehensive, unassailable chronicle of every lie, every furtive access, every stolen moment of my digital life that had been defiled by Zane Parker's intrusion. As I pored over the final pages of my journal, my hands trembling and my heart heavy with the weight of each recorded detail, I knew that the time would soon come to confront not only the hacker but also the part of my life that had been appended. The dossier was not merely a collection of evidence. It was the embodiment of every broken promise, every sacrifice repaid in deceit, a mirror reflecting a painful reality I could no longer ignore. With a heavy heart and a resolve forged in sorrow and tempered by relentless determination, I closed my journal and stared at the amassed files on my desk. In that quiet, dark moment, I felt a transformation, a metamorphosis from the compassionate, hopeful man I once was into someone driven by an unyielding need to force the truth into the unforgiving light. Every page, every meticulously recorded detail, was a battle cry against the deception that had so irreparably wounded me. I steeled myself for the inevitable confrontation that would soon shatter the fragile illusion of security I had so long believed in. The day of reckoning arrived beneath a leaden sky that mirrored the crushing weight of my grief and the turbulent storm of emotions raging within me. I had prepared for this day for what felt like an eternity, a day when every hidden truth would be forced into the harsh, unyielding light. I invited Madeline to our home under the pretext of discussing our future, a final, desperate attempt to salvage what remained of the shared dreams we had once nurtured. In our living room, which had once been a sanctuary of laughter and hope, I meticulously arranged the dossier on the coffee table. Printed photographs, detailed journal entries, and digital recordings were laid out like silent witnesses, each one an irrefutable testament to the systematic betrayal that had invaded my life. When Madeline entered, the confident smile I had once adored faltered as her eyes met the damning evidence. For a long, suffocating moment, neither of us spoke. The air between us was thick with unspoken accusations and the heavy burden of despair. Then, my voice, laden with sorrow yet burning with seething anger, broke the silence. "Madeline," I began, each word trembling with heartbreak and fury, "I sacrificed everything for our family. I gave up my career, my ambitions, everything to build a future with you. And now I see that all those promises were nothing but illusions." Her eyes widened in shock, and she stammered feebly, insisting it was just a mistake. A lapse born of loneliness, she claimed. But every piece of evidence, every recorded detail, rendered her explanations hollow and meaningless. I recounted, with painstaking clarity, every late night, Every secret call, every intimate message that confirmed the betrayal. Each word fell like a hammer blow upon the fragile foundation of trust we had so dearly built. As her defenses crumbled into quiet sobs, I warned her that the truth was now irrevocably exposed, and that the price of my sacrifice demanded consequences far beyond mere apologies. With my heart aching and my spirit hardened by months of silent suffering, I turned away and left her alone in her home, a home that now echoed with the silence of shattered dreams and broken promises. Stepping out into the chill afternoon, I vowed that Madeline, and, by extension, the man who had exploited our trust, would soon have to face the full consequences of their actions. My sacrifice was too profound to be repaid with deception, and I knew that the next chapter of this painful journey would demand retribution, a reckoning that would force every broken promise into the unforgiving light of truth. Every step I took away from that house felt weighted with the memories of lost dreams and unspoken words, and I knew in my heart that there would be no turning back. In the bitter days that followed our confrontation, the raw anguish that had once threatened to engulf me began to crystallize into a steely resolve for vengeance. I threw myself into advanced self-defense classes, pushing my body through grueling workouts at the gym until every drop of sweat and every bruise became a tangible symbol of the determination burning within me. A determination to reclaim the dignity so ruthlessly stripped away. With every disciplined movement, I felt as if I were slowly piecing together the man I had been, rising from the ashes of betrayal with renewed strength. At the same time, I delved deep into the world of the man who had betrayed me, a suave figure whose polished charm had long concealed vulnerabilities I was now determined to exploit. I sought out acquaintances, gathered whispered pieces of information, and combed through his social media profiles with a meticulousness that bordered on obsession. Slowly, I constructed a detailed profile that exposed the human flaws hidden behind his immaculate facade. Every reckless decision he had made in his personal or professional life, every careless moment he had taken for granted, became ammunition in my growing arsenal of vengeance. I recorded every detail in my journal, the exact phrases he used in casual conversation, the slight shifts in his tone when he spoke of his work, the rare, fleeting moments when his mask of confidence slipped. Each small fragment reinforced my resolve. I would hold him accountable for every broken promise and every stolen moment of intimacy that had defiled our future. Late at night, in the oppressive solitude of our now quiet home, I poured my conflicted emotions onto the pages of my journal. I wrestled with a fear, a gnawing worry that my relentless pursuit of retribution might ultimately consume the compassionate man I once was, the man who had believed in forgiveness and the sanctity of our family. Yet, every time such doubts arose, I recalled the tender, forbidden moments I had witnessed between Madeline and that man, the way her eyes would light up with secret delight, the soft, lingering touch of his hand that spoke of an intimacy I could no longer ignore, and my resolve blazed brighter. I began to devise a plan with the cold precision of a man who felt he had nothing left to lose. I chose a chic, upscale restaurant, a venue where my betrayer frequently hosted business dinners and where Madeline had once exuded confidence and radiance, as the stage for the next act in this unfolding tragedy. Every detail was mapped out meticulously, the exact time when I would confront them, the layout of the dining room with its intimate corners and carefully curated lighting, and the precise sequence of actions that would force a public reckoning. I vowed that the retribution I sought would not only restore my honor, but also serve as a stark, unyielding warning. The price of betrayal is steep and irrevocable. The seeds of vengeance, planted deep within the shattered remnants of my heart, grew stronger with every painful memory. I spent countless sleepless nights haunted by the image of Madeline laughing intimately with that man, the way his hand lingered on hers, the secretive glances they exchanged in the shadows. Though at times I questioned whether this dark path would ultimately erode the compassion that once defined me, those vivid, searing images eclipsed any lingering doubt. I pledged, with a fierce determination, that no matter the cost, I would force a reckoning that left both of them irrevocably scarred by the truth. Every new piece of evidence, every minute detail I recorded, felt like a small victory, a step closer to reclaiming the dignity that had been so brutally torn away. I chronicled every clandestine call, every furtive text, every shadowed meeting until my dossier grew into a towering monument to betrayal. With each new page, my resolve hardened further, transforming the raw pain of every memory into fuel for an unquenchable desire for retribution. Under a sky heavy with dark clouds and a relentless drizzle that transformed Miami's neon glow into a shifting, sorrowful mosaic, the night of reckoning finally arrived. It was as though the heavens themselves mourned the collapse of all that had been built on trust and love. Madeline had announced yet another evening out, a routine cloaked in the guise of professional obligation, and I knew, with a certainty that pounded in my chest, that she would be drawn to the upscale restaurant where Blake Monroe, her suave and self-assured betrayer, conducted his business with unyielding confidence. I parked my car in a narrow, shadowed alley, the slick pavement reflecting fractured neon signs like broken shards of a once bright promise. I sat there in agonizing silence, my heart pounding in unison with the steady, mournful cadence of the rain. Every droplet that fell seemed to echo the toll of my grief, each one a reminder of the promises that had been shattered. With a final, resolute breath, I stepped out of my car and crossed the slick pavement. The cold night air bit at my skin as I approached the looming entrance of the restaurant, a modern coliseum where fates would be irrevocably sealed. From the tinted windows of my vehicle, I watched as Madeline emerged into the rain-soaked night. The woman I once knew, radiant, warm, and full of promise, now moved with a subdued, almost ghostly elegance that betrayed the intimate secrets she shared. The rain softened her features, yet her eyes held a dark glimmer of regret and hidden sorrow. Beside her, Blake strode confidently, his polished charm and assured demeanor a stark counterpoint to the turmoil I felt inside. Every casual touch, every lingering caress between them, was a public declaration of the betrayal that had haunted me in silence for so long. With deliberate, measured resolve, I left the shelter of my car and advanced into the stormy night. The rain mingled with the sweat on my skin as I approached the restaurant's entrance, each step echoing the bitter rhythm of my broken heart. Inside, the atmosphere was deceptively serene, a low murmur of conversations, the soft clink of glassware, and ambient lighting that bathed the space in a gentle glow. I navigated through the crowd with single-minded focus until I reached a secluded booth in the far corner where Madeline and Blake sat, ensconced in their private world of whispered secrets and tender gestures. For what felt like an eternity, I absorbed every detail, the soft cadence of their shared laughter, the lingering touches that spoke of forbidden intimacy, and the exchanged glances that confirmed every painful suspicion. In that suspended moment, the air itself seemed charged with raw, pulsating energy, a prelude to the collision of our shattered fates. Every second stretched out interminably, each heartbeat a countdown to the inevitable confrontation. Then, unable to contain the storm raging within me any longer, I emerged from the shadows. In an instant, the transformation was complete. Madeline's face contorted into a raw mask of horror, disbelief, and deep, soul-crushing regret, a look that shattered the last vestiges of the love we once shared. Blake's confident facade crumbled as I lunged forward, every movement driven by the months of pent-up anguish and silent suffering that had festered inside me. I struck him with a series of precise, calculated blows, each impact resonating like the final toll of a bell heralding the end of all that had been built on trust. The restaurant erupted into chaos, gasps, murmurs, the clatter of overturned chairs, as I unleashed my fury upon both of them. I shouted declarations of betrayal, reciting the litany of sacrifices I had made, ensuring that every witness felt the crushing weight of my retribution. In that brutal, chaotic moment, the private sanctuary of our intimacy was torn asunder, exposed in the harsh glare of unforgiving public scrutiny. When, at last, the tumult subsided and a heavy, sorrowful silence descended upon the room, I slipped away into the rain-drenched night. Every step away from that scene was burdened by the bittersweet knowledge that nothing could ever restore what had been lost. And yet, for one fleeting, excruciating moment, I had reclaimed a shred of my honor from the depths of betrayal, a small, solitary victory in the wake of a crushing, irreversible loss. In the days that followed that fateful night, the world seemed to slow to a mournful cadence, a heavy, lingering silence that seeped into every corner of my existence. I returned to our once vibrant home, now transformed into a mausoleum of shattered dreams and irrevocable choices. The walls that had once resonated with laughter and the gentle murmur of family life now whispered dark secrets and bitter regrets. Although the physical wounds inflicted during that violent confrontation would eventually fade, like bruises that slowly lose their color, the deep emotional scars, the searing pain of betrayal, and the crushing cost of my sacrifice were etched permanently into my soul. They became an indelible ledger of that night, a spectral record of every broken promise and every unhealed wound. News of the confrontation spread quietly throughout our community, whispered behind closed doors, shared in hushed tones among neighbors who now regarded me with a mix of pity and wariness. I had become a symbol, a man both pitied and feared, whose desperate quest for retribution had forced hidden sins into the stark, unforgiving light of public scrutiny. Official inquiries blurred into a haze of bureaucratic formalities, their impersonal questions a distant echo compared to the relentless storm of guilt and sorrow that raged within me. Yet the true burden of my actions lay solely with me, the ceaseless, unanswerable question of whether any act of vengeance could ever restore what had been so irrevocably shattered. In the wake of that terrible night, Madeline vanished from our home as if swallowed by the darkness she had long concealed. Her absence left behind a cavernous void, a space filled with unanswered questions, bitter regret, and the echo of a love betrayed beyond repair. Like, too, receded into obscurity, a mere shadow, diminished by the heavy consequences of his choices. I found myself alone, standing amidst the ruins of what had once promised so much, forever altered by the irreversible path of retribution I had chosen. In the solitude of my study, a room that had once been a sanctuary for hope and creative dreams, I began a new journal. Every page became a raw, unfiltered chronicle of my journey from sacrifice to betrayal, and from that betrayal to the steep, unyielding pursuit of vengeance. I wrote of the bitter irony that, in giving up my career and ambitions to build a family, I had envisioned a future founded on unwavering trust. Instead, I discovered that the very foundation of that future had been shattered by secrets, lies, and the forbidden intimacy that stole away my dreams. Every word I penned was a struggle, a battle between a fragile hope for redemption and the stark, unyielding reality that some wounds never fully. I recorded the echoes of whispered confessions that haunted the night, the ghostly remnants of laughter turned to silence, and the heavy toll of every broken promise. As dawn broke on a misty morning, the weak light of a new day barely pierced the thick veil of sorrow that clung to my heart. I stood at a crossroads, scarred in both body and soul, uncertain if I could ever truly move forward. And yet, amid the overwhelming grief and the lingering sting of betrayal, I resolved that my story would serve as a cautionary chronicle, a testament to the fragile nature of trust and the steep, irreversible price of deception. Perhaps, in time, these scars might guide me toward a path of reluctant healing, a slow, arduous journey toward a peace that now seemed almost unattainable. Now, as I step forward into an uncertain future, I carry with me both the legacy of my sacrifice and the heavy burden of my retribution. I have become both the avenger and the wounded, a man forever marked by broken promises and the forbidden intimacy that stole away my dreams. In the quiet moments before each new day, as the darkness of night gives way to the tentative glow of dawn, I allow myself a fragile hope that redemption might someday emerge from these ruins. Until that uncertain dawn arrives, I remain a living testament to one bitter truth: the price of betrayal is steep, and the pursuit of vengeance, even if it offers fleeting, brutal release, leaves behind a legacy of sorrow, irrevocable change, and a heart that may never fully mend. And that's the end of the day's story. If you enjoyed this journey, please give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more incredible stories like this one. Got thoughts or experiences you'd like to share? Drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.